Yeah. Okay. All right. So this website, this is fhfa.gov. So this is Federal Housing Finance Agency. This is actually a pretty cool tool. I'm gonna come down here. It's the house price calculator.
Oh,
Let's
I haven't seen this.
If we can calculate. I got my calculator. All right, ready? So what's interesting about this is that it's much different than what we see for like automated systems, right? You know, you're familiar with RPR and we see our other online estimates. I don't want to name any.
No,
let's just say there are other online estimates that we're all familiar with. But the FHFA, the Housing Price Index Calculator. So what it does is it actually looks at different metropolitan areas across the whole country, right? And it does different statistics and shows how prices have changed or are potentially growing in certain areas over certain times. Now, it's much different from these other systems where we put an address in, right? We're so used to popping in an address.
Yep.
And then, hey, what's the number of bedroom, square footage, and all that stuff. Well, this is not like that. All right. But what's interesting about this, all right, so let's go in. We'll just start with
and I haven't seen this, so I'm learning along with everyone.
Yeah, sorry. We're in Massachusetts. You know how I learned this from?
Where'd you learn this from?
Oh, you're gonna be like, oh, of course. You don't even want to guess? It's a national person. I know you love this person.
National person? Is it Lee Brown?
It's Lee Brown. Lee Brown, That is so funny. Yes. This was actually in one of her listing classes that I took with her. Again, just another tool, right? Realtors have access to so many different ways to try to price a property, a million different ways, right? And you really shouldn't even be doing it one different way. You should be doing it a couple different ways. That way you have, the more information you have, the better decision the seller can actually make, right? And then you can obviously, let them know, hey, this is what this is, what this information is from. This is how they, figure this out. And then have the discussion how you're going to price it. But what's really cool about this is that you put in the when you bought the property, right? So you're not putting in the address or anything like that, just when you bought the property, right? And the purchase price, okay? And then you put in when you want to know the value is at a later date, okay? So let's say, yes. So let's say we bought a property and it goes by quarters, which is kind of cool. So let's say we bought a house at the beginning of 2016, right? And in this available MSAs, this is the metropolitan statistical area. So this is Springfield, because obviously that's our area. So it's just the statistical area for Springfield. And this is the quarter one. So let's say you bought a house quarter one, right? And then the most recent is quarter three, which is, fall of last year, but quarter four should be up anytime, but quarter three. So most recent date, right? So we bought it. Let's say we bought it for $200.
Or $20.
Worth $2 million. All right. All right. So $200,000.
Okay.
And then we're going to calculate. All right, so what it's going to do is it's going to tell us if you paid $200,000 in quarter one of 2016, it's going to tell us what, how much the prices have changed in that area on an average. Not telling you necessarily exactly what your house is worth, obviously, because they don't know all those details, but based on what you bought it for and how much the prices have changed, it's going to show you what the difference should be. Does that make sense? All right, so this is obviously good information.
Wait,
interesting. What do you think? You want to take a guess?
2016 to 2020, I would say it'll be 237. 237 is my guess.
I think you're going to be close. 243.
Oh, it's close. I'll take it.
243. All right. So what? Again, a cool tool, to have
That is
access to.
cool.
This is a government website. Now, again, that 243, depending on your house, because you could have bought a, $200,000 fixer upper, and someone else could have bought a $200,000 brand new move-in property, right? So, so it doesn't take into account, condition, and there are other factors to consider. However, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
This is kind of cool. So, what's cool about it is, if you have somebody who has bought, let's say within the past couple of years, it's only been a handful of years, and they haven't done much, right? Or the house is, obviously, let's say it was redone when they bought it, and they didn't necessarily need to do much. It's been 2 or 3 years. That, probably would be a little bit more accurate. Again, not 100% accurate, because as we know, the government is always slow. And these numbers are behind, usually a little bit behind, but
yeah,
again, it's still a cool tool.
I mean, from 2020 third quarter, I would say that's probably increased a good 10 grand since then.
Yeah. So what it did was, the estimated value for the state, if it was just $200,000 spent in the state and not specifically the greater Springfield area, then the value would have gone up to 268. Right. So as you've seen, from what we saw for years, when we looked at our numbers, with Springfield was always behind. The rest of the state had already recovered, 2016 was it what it was. So it was only like a year and a half, 2 years ago that Springfield finally passed, our pre-crash numbers. So it is interesting to see that, depending on where you bought, obviously you could have had way more gain, on the value of your house. And that's why it's important to get an agent, right?
Yeah.
That's why important. Very important, because as a homeowner, you're going to look at this and unless you understand what this means, comparing it to some other stuff, you can't just rely on everything you see online, right? We all know that.